$45,000 gold, $5,000 silver. Lately, we've heard some outrageous claims about where the precious metals prices could be heading. But I want to ask you a question. Is there something weird going on out there? We're going to dig into recent activity within the silver and gold sector and uncover a couple factors which I think will indicate to us that there's some strange things going on right now in the world of gold and silver. And all of this is going on without a crisis. We're going to dig into that as well. We're going to put some pieces together that are going to give us some clarity on the precious metal sector, but also give us some optimism about why we hold silver, gold, and platinum. What about the banks? We got to talk about that because they are a critical component of what is going to transpire in the coming months, quarters, and years. Are we headed for a Great Depression? There's one indicator that when we look at it and when the gurus look at it, is indicating that we could actually be heading possibly towards a Great Depression. We're going to talk about that. We're gonna touch on one more time, one last time. We're going to talk about a subject that I am just fascinated by, and that's Costco gold. But this time, we have news about Costco and gold coming from north of the border, at least north of the border from where I live in the United States. But some of you live in Canada. You can give us your perspective on what's going on with gold and silver in Canada, but also this Costco situation, which is, in my opinion, developing into a very fascinating development for the silver and gold sector. And wherever you are joining me from today, thank you for being here. You're a basement dweller. Congratulations. For the next little bit of time, you're in the basement. We call ourselves basement dwellers. I'm glad you're here. You are the most important part of Ron's Basement. You're the most important part of a lot of things. So give yourself a little pat on the back. And if you want to do something nice, give this a thumbs up. That helps us get the word out to more and more people. And you know, Susie, my wife, who many of you know, she's the real boss of the basement. She's been working really hard on two things. TikTok. Now, I'm not a big TikTok person, but if you know anybody who is, she is putting some short videos on the TikTok. I laugh as I say that. But also Twitter as well. You can follow Ron's Basement on Twitter, and there's links in the description of this video and every video. That's enough of the advertisement for right now. We're going to talk about unbelievable opportunity for price appreciation in the gold mining stocks. We had some big news out this morning from Fortuna Silver Mines, a company that I follow closely and many of you also follow. We'll talk about what's going on there. We'll talk about even more signs that the economy is crashing. We got some big news in that regard, and I just got to get started right now. Let's get back to the beginning. $45,000 gold, $5,000 silver. I know, preposterous, but remember, if the dollar crashes, nothing is off the table. But what the heck is going on? Let's try to do a little looking at the forest through the trees right now. We can look at all the little individual stories that do impact the silver price and gold price. But let's talk about the big picture, because there's some weird things going on right now. Have you noticed that? Okay, number one, coin shops and online bullion dealers are experiencing big sales increases right now. I want you to think about that, because I will tell you this is a fact. That is unusual behavior during a period where the price gets smashed down. We've had a price smash, right, in the last week and a half, 2 weeks in silver and gold, especially in silver. I know, I feel your pain, right? But here's the fact. Rick Rule has said this. I've heard all the top people. I've talked to people at the big online bullion dealers. I've talked to the local coin shop. Typically, when there's a price smash, retail investors, individual investors, do the exact opposite of what they should do. When the price goes down, they sell their silver, sell their gold. They get scared. They think it's going to zero, and they sell. That has been the pattern for decades. Guys, something's different right now. Put on your something different pants, okay? Change, because it's changed. Now, just recently, when we're seeing this beat down, and it's the only way we can say it, in the silver price and gold price, the online, I talked to the guys at Pimbex. Their sales are up, okay? I've talked to Coin Shop Chris. He'll tell you, at his shop, sales the last week have been going a little crazy, okay? I was there. There's everywhere you look. People on the West Coast, people on the East Coast are saying sales are going crazy right now. That is different, and that's a big deal, okay? On top of that, there's just something different going on right now in the precious metals sector. This whole Costco thing, which we're going to talk about later. But everybody, my friend Mike, my friend Pete, my mom, for crying out loud. I'm not going to cry today, but if I would cry out loud for you. My mom asking about Costco and gold. Everyday people. But at the same time, there's a price smash. But at the same time, you've got individual investors acting much more. Guys, it can happen. We can move into a new paradigm for the silver and gold market. It absolutely can happen, okay? Very on top of that. And we said this last week. What happened was the strangest day last week, in my decades of following silver in particular. Thursday or Friday of last week, when we had silver up nearly $1, and then within hours, an hour and a half, 2 hours, went from being up $1 to being down for it. It was like a 6-7% price swing in 1 hour. That is not right. That is weird behavior, strange price behavior, like people who've been around for decades have never seen before. And I know it was painful, weird behavior. But on top of that, retail investors flocking to coin shops, right? We're hearing about cabinets at the local coin shops being pretty barren right now, okay? Online bullion dealers, something is different. Something's going on. We got a lot more to talk about on this as well, so bear that in mind. But here's the double zinger kicker in all of this, right? All this is going on, all this weirdness, but we're not in a crisis. There's no quote, there's no official crisis. This is going on with what I would call the eye of a hurricane type environment. We're seeing demand for metals skyrocket, bizarre behavior in the price, but it's all happening when at the same time, everything's calm. Just ask Janet Yellen or Jerome Powell from the United States Federal Reserve. The economy is strong. Ask Joe Biden. He'll tell you Bidenomics is working. But all this weirdness, guys, think about it. Take a step back. Okay, we got to look at the big picture. You're a deep thinker. I know you. You're a basement dweller. We're deep underground right now. We're putting the pieces together. All this weirdness is going on, and it's happening in an environment where there is no big official crisis. Imagine if, and we're going to talk about this, we have another banking crisis that gets exposed, because we do have a banking crisis right now. But if it officially becomes exposed, what do you think is going to happen for the price of the precious metals in an environment like that? Okay, I just read an article, an interesting article last night, says that a majority of Americans distrust the system. Do you distrust the system? I do. Okay, unfortunately, the recent decades, what the leaders have taught me is to distrust the system. But a majority of Americans distrust the system. Now, add that into the fray. Crazy behavior in the precious metals markets. We know, well, we already covered that, okay? There's no official crisis right now. And at the same time, you have Americans who are increasingly saying they distrust the system. Is that why people are heading to Costco, everyday average people, they trust Costco to buy ounces of gold. Think about the big picture of what's going on and what we could be hit with in the future. It's a scary, scary scenario. It's horrible what they've done to precious metals. We know the price manipulation. We know all that stuff that goes on. But we got to keep within our minds, within our context, the big picture of what is happening out there. Again, no wonder. I think we are moving into a new paradigm for silver, gold, and platinum. And it's just starting to percolate right now. It's like when you turn on a crock pot, it's just starting to heat up. And that we could be in for a long period of very supportive environment for the silver price and gold price. Crazy. Now, what I'm about to tell you is even crazier. And I read this. Do you know who Michael Oliver is? This was on King World News, which I'm not a regular reader of, but I thought this was just something that I know I've never thought of, and I would venture to say likely you've never thought of, and it will have the biggest impact on the silver price and gold price. Absolutely. But Michael Oliver laid out the facts right now. Are we having a banking crisis? How will that impact the silver price and gold price? Okay, I'm going to do my best to simplify for you what he said, and then we're going to share our thoughts about this. We know right now, have you looked at the bank stocks lately? Have you looked at Citibank? Have you looked at Bank of America, U.S. Bank? Any bank stock is down, down, down. Some of them 30%, some of them 20%, some of them 40, 50%. It's almost like they're a junior gold mining stock. We'll save that discussion for later. But the bank stocks are showing us right now that there's trouble in the banking sector. People are getting out of the bank stocks. People are selling their bank stocks. Why would they be doing that? Because we know there is huge stress, huge crisis right now in the banking sector, right? The bond yields, the interest rates being so high is putting huge stress on the banks. Unrealized losses. I just read last night, like they have another 140 billion in unrealized losses. They're real. They just don't have to recognize them. So maybe unrecognized is the best way to say it. Those bonds they bought 3 and 4 years ago for $100,000 each are now only worth $70,000 or $60,000 or $78,000 each. The banks are in trouble. Oh, and there's this other little problem called commercial real estate that's blowing up on the banks as well. The bank stocks are going down. That's a good quantitative numbers, pure, not arguable way to say that the market is recognizing big trouble in the banks. And you're probably asking, what does this have to do with silver and gold? Let me tell you something. I want to finish this train of thought because this is huge for gold and silver. The banks are in big, big trouble, okay? Banks tell the future. Take a deep breath. Think about that. The bank stocks are telling the future, okay? And gold and silver tell the future of the banks. Gold and silver are the oldest markets in the world, okay? People were, with beards hanging down to their belly buttons, were trading gold and silver thousands of years ago. They are the oldest and the wisest markets in the world. Like you, basement dweller, right? We're all old and wise. Some of us are young. We're all young at heart. But, and that was a huge super chat. Thank you. But gold tells the future, okay? The banks are telling the future of what's going on in the banking sector, but gold and silver very likely are telling the future of the banks. And when gold and silver are puking, sorry to use that word, like they did, they're telling us there's trouble in the banking sector now. What does this have to do with the price of gold and silver, you may ask? It has everything to do with it because the Federal Reserve, and if you look back at 2007 and 2008, the Federal Reserve is not going to let the banking sector collapse. And the same thing happened back in 07, 08, right? First, the bank stocks went down. The regular market, right? We got the Fantastic Seven, the S&P 500. It's been going down, but it's not crashed. But the banks have crashed. As soon as the banks get in real trouble, that will be when the Fed will pivot. We think, oh, the whole market's got to crash. The whole market. No, it's going to be the banks. That'll happen first. And gold and silver right now are saying things are going to get much worse for the banks. And when it does get even just a little more worse for the banks, Jerome Powell and the Federal Reserve is going to pivot, officially pivot. And that is going to be the absolute, right, most supportive. Unfortunately, we have to deal with the Wizard of Oz make-believe world of the Federal Reserve and all that crazy stuff, but that will be the most absolute positive environment that you, yes, you, could ever ask for the precious metals prices. Remember what happened in the 70s? Guys, we're doing it right now. We're doing it right now. So when this Fed pivot happens, and it's going to happen because gold tells the future of the banks and silver, it's going to be off to the races. Do you want some good news? I'm here to deliver some good news this morning from the basement, my friends. Do you want some good news? Look back at what happened in the 70s with gold and silver, because that's a very similar environment to where we are today. Don't forget, say thank you to our sponsor, Pimbex. If you want to get your gold and silver before it possibly takes off, because I don't have a crystal ball, don't make any financial decisions based upon what I say. I'm just sharing with you what I think I see happening in the future based upon what I know are facts. Pimbex, Pimbex, online bullion dealer. I use them. I did my research on them. I would encourage you to do your research on them as well. To me, trustworthiness, selection, price, they were the best. So if you're out looking for some metal, check out Pimbex, because in the 70s, let's just say silver from its low to its high was up like 30 or more times, 30, not 30%, 30 times. Gold, basically the same thing, 20 times during that period. It can happen again. People get mad when they say, when we talk, I said $45,000 gold earlier. Well, that's like 25 time increase. That, I agree, is a preposterous thought. But didn't that kind of happen during the 70s? What about silver? Right? Up 35 times during the 70s? I know, peak to peak, whatever. Look, but still, that's $600 for silver. And heck, we didn't have as much debt back then as we have now in this country. I would argue that the what do you think about this? What do you think? The financial situation of the United States in the 70s, the political situation in the United States in the 70s, the world geopolitical situation in the world in the 1970s, I would say that now, compared to then, things are in much worse shape overall, right? I mean, come on. We've got $33 trillion in debt. Nonetheless, right, we know things are more screwed up now, right now, than they ever were in the 70s. Think about this. What is this? How does this make you feel? How does this make you feel? Okay? From 1970 to 2020, if my mathematicals are correct, that's 50 years. The United States basically enjoyed green fields, sunny skies, unicorns, and rainbows. We ruled the world, right? We were the world power. We had all the money. Everybody used the dollar. Everybody relied on the United States of America. We won the Cold War. We did, excuse me, overall, it was a very agreeable environment for the United States of America. 1970, the year I was born, through 2020. But even in that green grass, blue sky environment, what happened to the dollar? I'd say the U.S. dollar probably lost half of its value during that period, right? I mean, is that not correct? So let's just forget about 2000. Let's forget about up to today, 2020 to 2023. Sorry, my brain was ticking. Let's go out the next 50 years. Do you think we're going to be in such a conducive environment for the United States? I would argue no. No, absolutely not. It's not going to be such a blue sky, green field, unicorn. No, I'd say we got storm clouds. We've got a dried out field of kudzow or whatever that weed is called. We are going into the next 50 years, which appear to be much more challenging. And we have all this debt, right? What's going to happen to the dollar in the future? I mean, it did crappy, excuse my French, under the previous, what was very conducive environment. What's going to happen when the environment's not so conducive? You know what's going to happen in real terms, real. And this makes me mad. This makes me mad. Okay, in real terms, your dollar is going to go down in value. In real terms, silver and gold are going to do very well. So we'll platinum Neil from Neil Hahn's Dynasty, the platinum guru, and flying by me here. Susie, my wife, you can say thank you to her too, but the real value is going down. Now I want you to think about, I'm going to re-blow your mind, because hopefully I blew your mind earlier. Because don't forget, gold tells the future of the banks. But think back 15 years, okay? The dollar's strong. Why did gold and silver? Why are gold and silver struggling so much over the last couple of years, over the last few days? Because of a strong dollar. The U.S., the mighty dollar, the strong dollar. Everyone loves the dollar, okay? Now, I want you to think back, and it's true. The DXY, that's how they measure the dollar. The DXY index. Research it sometime if you don't know what it is. Put it into Google. Look at MarketWatch. They got a chart. Go back 15 years. The DXY was at 80. Today, I didn't even look before I came on. It was 107, 108 the other day, right? The dollar's strong, right? From 2008 through today, last 15 years, it went from 80 all the way up to 10. It's up 30%. The dollar's strong. Oh, okay. Really? Well, let me ask you, if the dollar in those 15 years has gone up 30% in value, why is it that today, when I take a $100 bill and go to the grocery store, I get half as much as I did with my $100 compared to 15 years ago, right? That's called real value, right? The 80 DXY to 108, that's called relative value, relative to a bunch of other crappy 6 other currencies they compare the dollar to. The real value is how much gas, how much food, how much housing, whatever you're into, how many comic books, how many ding dongs, how many ding dongs. Coin Shop Chris today can only get half as many ding dongs with his $100, right? Today he can get about 300 ding dongs with $100, but I guarantee you 15 years ago he could get 600 ding dongs with $100. That's the real value. So when they throw out this bulkapookie about the dollar being strong and that's why gold and silver are down, don't fall for it. That's part of the smoke and mirrors that the Fed and the monitor that they put out there, right? No, what's held its value over that period of time, and even more over silver, gold, everything. Don't fall for it. Now here, we got a lot more to talk about, guys. You want to talk about a depression? Nobody talks about depression. Nobody. That's why I'm scared we might actually have a depression. And when you look at all the factors that we've discussed, could we be heading for a depression? I mean, we know, because we hang on that, guys, every word. The President of the United States of America, Joe Biden, and Bidenomics, or is it Bidenom tricks? I don't know. but according to Joe, it's working. Susie doesn't like when I do that. But the walkie-talkie's dead, so I can say whatever I want. But are we heading? Somebody might want to tell Joe that we could. I'm not saying it's going to happen, but are we headed to a depression, like really hard times? And there's one data point that points possibly in that direction. Let me just read a couple points to you from here. Hal Turner. I have no idea who Hal Turner is, but he says U.S. money supply is officially contracting, down 3.7%. Do you look at the U.S. debt clock? Okay, that's that website that has all these different debt numbers, and there's all these different silver numbers. And by the way, everybody's always up in arms of why does silver say zero? That's because the silver and gold, the current numbers on the debt clock show the growth in money supply. And this is very important. This indicator that's going towards depression zone, M2 money is all the money in the system, bank accounts, cash, everything, okay? It is shrinking. What does that mean for silver and gold? Well, on the debt clock, it means that it shows that silver and gold are at zero because the amount of money is shrinking in the system. But what does it mean in regards to the fact that we could possibly, can you fathom, be heading towards a depression? Okay, here, quickly, warning, the money supply is officially contracting. This has only happened 5 times in the previous 150 years. But each time, a depression with double-digit unemployment rates followed. We've only seen the money supply shrink 5 times in the history of the United States in the last 150 years. But every time the money supply did shrink, we had a depression. In the past 150 years, the U.S. money, okay, here, 2 money supply metrics that investors pay attention to are M1 and M2. The former, M2, accounts for the cash and coins in circulation, as well as the demand deposits within an individual's checking account. Meanwhile, M2 factors in everything in M1 and adds money market accounts, savings accounts, CDs. The main difference is that M2 factors in cash that takes a little extra work to get your hands on. As far back as the eye can see, M2 has been climbing since the U.S. economy steadily grows over the long run. It's only natural that more cash capital is needed to facilitate transactions. So M2 is always rising, but now, very unusual, we have the money supply shrinking. And, how do you think about this when you look at the big picture of what's going on in the economy? We've covered all this. The freight rates, the amount of freight being shipped around the country down 10% on trucks, 5 or 10% on rail. We just got news from the New York, New Jersey Port Authority that their traffic coming in on these big container ships is down 20%. Right? We know. Here's another horrific, scary situation. It says the headline, consumer crashed. Credit card spending cratered in September. You know why credit card spending cratered? 2 reasons. People don't have any money left on their credit cards. They've maxed out their credit cards, and those who haven't are shaking in their boots. Okay? And factor all that in. What does it mean that the money supply is shrinking? And we know that every time that's happened in the past, it is a preview for a depression to come. I don't know, right? It could get ugly. We're not complete doom and gloom, people here in the basement, but it could get ugly. What would happen to the value of silver and gold, either during a deflationary depression type environment, or if the Fed you think the Fed would pivot right? If we start to hit a real recession, I don't know what you call it. What's a more exaggerated form of pivoting? I could see Jerome Powell and Janet Yellen. They wouldn't just pivot, folks. They'd be doing backflips on CNBC for everybody. Janet and Jerome would be at the local trampoline park doing backflips, saying, "Don't worry, guys, we're going to flip. We're not just pivoting, we're flipping. We're going to pump so much money into this system." Silver and gold are going to do very, very, very well. Okay? Now, let's talk about my friend John Forrest Little talked about. You want to talk about 25x in gold? Okay, I'm going to touch on this briefly, but John Forrest Little is at the Pickaxe. He's on Substack. He's a guy who's been following the precious metal sector for years and years. I've done a couple interviews with him. He's very intelligent. He works with the guys at the Silver Degen Club. But John put out a piece of research that I thought was very interesting about gold. And 25 times, can we again, right? $45,000 gold, right? I mean, it's our minds don't compute that, and we think it's crazy. But again, if we look at the returns we had in the 70s and 80s, it's not that far out of the question. But let me tell you in a nutshell how John, and I'll put a link to his work in the description of this video. But he pointed out, well, let me just, here, I'll read it. I'll read a couple little blurbs for you because I don't want to misstate anything. He looks at the total amount of debt in the world right now, just debt, okay? $307 trillion. That's the amount of debt in the world. It's crazy, guys. We are in crazy town. What does that mean? 307. If you want to back that up with all of the gold in the world, right? So this compares the total amount of debt, 307 trillion. I mean, and you want to back that up with all the gold in the world, you're looking at 6.7 billion troy ounces. That brings the price of gold to $45,821. Okay? Today's paper price of gold is $1,800, as we are all very aware. 45,000, the 45,000 per ounce level is 25 times greater than that 1,800. It's crazy. And are we making an error to compare the value of gold to all the debt in the world? I don't know. Right? People, right? Modern monetary people say, "Oh, that doesn't make sense. That's not." Well, I don't know. Right? What about that guy who used to work at the Federal Reserve? Remember him? There's a guy who was an economist at the New York Fed for decades, I believe, and he didn't die all that long ago. His name was Johnny Exter. And we love Johnny Exter because Johnny was the one guy who told the truth about the monetary system. He argued, I mean, this guy was crazy. Have you heard about him? He had a pyramid, and he turned it upside down, and he said at the bottom of that pyramid, right down there, that little bitty bit, that was all the gold and silver in the world, and that all that other stuff made up, make-believe, right? Make-believe. Hello, make-believe. I can't show you a bit. Here's a Bitcoin. There, make-believe. Oh, here, in my bank account, at my local bank. Here, there's my balance. Right there, see it? Make believe. What about all the derivatives? Right? We're not talking billions. We're not talking 307 billion of debt in the world. No, we're talking quadrillions. We took billion to a whole new level. 1,000 billion, or 1,000 trillion is a quadrillion. We don't even know how many derivatives there are. You hear all kinds of crazy numbers. Okay? All of that rests on this little tiny little itty bitty bit of silver and gold. Do you have some of the, what do you think that means? What do you think that means? Right? Because eventually all that made up stuff, right? Let's look at history. Let's talk about what Lynette Zhang. Remember Lynette Zhang? That's what my mom said the other day to me, was that lady that I interviewed. Very nice lady, very smart lady. What is Lynette Zhang? She's got a stack of all kinds of different paper money that's been created over the years. There's hundreds, thousands of fiat make-believe monies that have come and gone. Because once they're not completely tethered, I love that word, tethered. I hate the word pivot, but I love the word tethered. You have to have your money at minimum tethered to gold, like an anchor on the bottom of the ocean. The boat can float around, right? But it's tethered to that anchor. And I will argue, and you'll say I'm crazy, and you know, you're probably 51% right in saying that, but nonetheless, I would argue that no matter what they say, no matter Jerome Powell is the Wizard of Oz. No matter what he throws out there, wonderful stories and all this, you know, blah, 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 blah. Silver and gold are still backing everything right now. Most of you probably don't even agree with me on that, but I think and I know if I look out 100 years, if I look back 100 years, if I look out 1,000 years, and I can see out there 1,000 years from now, we are going to be really old, you and I. But if we look back 1,000 years, it's always been the case. It always will be the case. It's crazy. I want to talk about crazy. I apologize to you, okay? Because I'm not trying to poison your brain, but I really think the Costco thing was and the best word I can think of is catalyst, but there's got to be a sign, a canary in the coal mine, right? That what we are seeing in the metals market, that it's changing, okay? Let me read this to you. This is about Canada and Costco. Hold on here. This is from my friend Michael. Here we go. From CBC, Costco now sells gold bars. This is in Canada, but are they a good investment? So let me tell you, this is great. This is typical what silver and gold investors deal with. It's a great article about how Costco Canada is selling gold and how people are buying gold. And it tells the price of the gold, you know, doesn't say anything about silver yet, but it's talking about gold. But then it turns into a hit piece. Then they start putting you down. Okay. If you're a gold investor, silver investor, he said, gold is awesome for people who have really unstable currencies, right? Well, that would be everybody, my friend. This is Will Huggins. He's an associate professor. Oh, he's in academia. Oh, of finance and economics at the McMaster University's DeGroote School of Business. So it's good if you have an unstable currency and can represent an attractive, stable investment. Here's what he says here. I'm not in Canada, so maybe our Canadian friends, because then he goes on to say, it's just not a real problem we have in Canada, right? Like we don't have that problem here. We have a real stable, good currency. I don't know. Has your currency in Canada lost any value? I think it has. When I look at the exchange rate, here he said it's not like a herd of cattle or some land or a corporate entity. It's just a yellow rock. That's all it is, right? So this turns into a hit piece, okay? He said some other mean things about us. Hold on. Here we go. For the most part, the reason people buy gold is because they've been told the same story we all heard as a kid, that gold was a hedge against inflation. And as a result, when we start to see the ghost of inflation rising back up after 40 years, people think, I should buy some gold. Okay, Michael, thanks. So pretty much anybody who can sell gold is able to tap into people who have these fears, inflationary fears. Then he talks about how it's people in their 70s and 80s that are really scared and falling for this, gold trick. I don't know. So buying gold is mostly done because people are afraid, not because it's been a great asset. No, it's been not a great asset over the last 1,000 years. No, not at all. It hasn't done anything in 3 years. It's the same price it was, 2 months into the pandemic. Anyway, I just thought that was interesting that, again, we get a story about people buying gold, and then, of course, that's from the Canadian Broadcasting Corporation. They have to smash down gold. We got some good news today out of Fortuna Silver Mines. Guys, I'm not giving financial advice. I'm not telling you what to do, but these mining stocks are so incredibly undervalued right now. I would have said the same thing 1 year ago, and I would have been wrong because they became even more undervalued. But Fortuna Silver is making money, making profit, cash flow, and they announced unbelievable production numbers today. Check them out. Now, what I like, besides holding physical metal, is owning these development companies that have metal in the ground. Keith Neumeyer started this company about 6 years ago, First Mining Gold, gold company. Keith Neumeyer, and he's still the chairman of the board, and he's still buying the stock, They happen to have massive amounts of gold in Canada. If you're interested in owning gold in the ground, you might want to check out First Mining Gold, because if you do the math and you read the investor presentation, you'll see that you're getting gold. It's in the ground. It's been drilled. It's been determined, all that. But you can buy gold in the ground for like less than $10 per ounce. Sure, there's risk involved with any mining company. There's risk involved with any company. But at some point, when the value proposition, for me, just my opinion, becomes as outrageous as it is right now, I don't mind owning gold. If I'm not going to hold it in my hand, I like to know that it's still buried in the ground. And I know, and it's not just the gold developers, it's the silver developers too. The pipelines of these big companies, the big mining companies, are empty. They're going to be looking for new projects. And companies like First Mining Gold will be the solution to their problem. They've got like 6 big project interests in total, 2 of which have over 5 million ounces. Everything's in Canada. Check them out. They make videos like this possible. And if you want to talk to somebody at the company, right, a super smart, intelligent, and nice guy, Paul Morris, I'll put his email address in the description of this video as well. We got more to talk about. This is, you want to get really mad? To me, I read this last night, and we talk about a depression. I remember I went to a high school called CBC, Christian Brothers College High School here in St. Louis. It was all boys. They wouldn't let me go to a school that had girls in it when I was in high school. Anyway, one of the Christian Brothers came to our school one time, and he came into one of my classes, and he gave this talk, and he talked about, I'll never forget it, about the distribution of wealth in the United States. And this was in the mid-'80s, okay? Then he talked about how crazy it had gotten before the Great Depression. I don't know why he came in and talked to us about that, but now we are at the most absurd levels of the wealthy having more assets than the poor. This is a mind blower. This is a mind blower. And I think it could indicate to us, historically, it's kind of like that money supply shrinking thing. Historically, when wealth distribution has become this out of whack and unfair, that has created major economic problems. Because, guys, it's like, think about this. It'd be like if I have a poker game and invite you over to my house, and you and 9 of your buddies show up, and you all are like, yeah, I got $100, I got $120, and we come and we sit down, we start playing poker, and I pull out a stack of 100,000. You guys are gonna be like, I'm not playing this game. This is rigged. This is not gonna work. Ron's got 100K, and we all have 100. Listen to this. Listen to this statistic, because it's a sad commentary on what's going on in this country right now. I'm going to use my bedroom voice, okay? The top 0.1, and I'm going to give you an example from these numbers that will blow your mind. The top 0.1%, not 1%, 0.1% of Americans own 11.4% of the country's assets. So we'll say 11%. The poorest 50% of Americans own just 6% of the assets. So 0.1% is 1 in 1,000. Okay? 1% is 1 in 100. 0.1% is 1 in 1,000. So one person out of every let's just take 1,000 Americans. Okay? We're going to line them up or put them in a room together. There's one guy, okay? There's one guy who owns almost twice as much. One guy out of 1,000 owns twice as much as the poorest 500 people in that room. Okay? It doesn't work. Okay? I'm sorry, and it's a sad commentary on what's gone on in this country. You don't, and you're not going to hear about that on the Today Show or on the Children's News Network, because you know why? That 0.1%, they control the media. They don't want people to know that that's the case. That's an absolute fact. But what more important when it comes to this, what does that mean for precious metals, silver and gold? It's like the snake eating their own tail. Their greed and hubris at the top, right? Eventually, they wind up shooting themselves in the foot, figuratively, okay? And the system crashes because people just give up, and we're seeing that already. Think about this, right? Welcome to October of 2023. If you have student loans, you're supposed to be paying them back. But like 44% of people who were surveyed, they said, I can't afford. I'm just not going to pay them. I'm just not going to pay my student loans. And I wouldn't be surprised. I'm not saying it's right and wrong or anything else, but even with credit cards and car payments, people are just like, force majeure. I give up. I can't do it. It doesn't make any sense, right? Times are tough out there. Speaking of times being tough out there, right? It's not so tough that you can't afford a couple of little small luxuries. And one of those small luxuries, it's commercial time, is our other sponsor, Weber Seasonings. You can get these at Sam's Club. And I know that you're a person who likes good value, so you go to Sam's Club, but you can get the gold standard of seasonings, and there are tons of great recipes out there. There's a website you can go to called The Real Kitchen. Check it out. Okay, I happen to know the guy that made this website. It's fabulously successful, and it's got some unbelievable great recipes on there. But on top of that, right, let's say instead of going out to eat with your family, you go to Sam's, you can get like 4 awesome meals at home for the price of what you'd pay to go out to get one mediocre meal at a restaurant. So check out The Real Kitchen. Okay, there's a link to it in the description as well. But check out these Weber seasonings. Look, I got a little Weber bear. See him? That's Mr. Weber Bear. We all love them. I think you will too. Guys, it's nutty out there. You know, and I talk about unbelievable value right now in the mining stocks. It's true. Okay, the mining stocks are just beat to a pulp. I've never seen value opportunities like we've had recently. Okay, it's going to be interesting. Let's not forget the truth of what's going on right now. We talked about this. Okay, crazy, weird, bizarre behavior in the silver price, silver market. Same thing with gold and platinum. That's a fact. It's not right. What happened last week is not right. It's a sign of things to come. We've got the Costco thing. I'm like the only person who thinks that's a big sign. Maybe I'm wrong, right? To me, my gut is telling me, my spidey sense, that there's something going on. We've got coin shops that have exploding sales right now, right? That's a big deal. That right now, people are buying silver and gold like crazy, you know? They're not going to have to sponsor YouTube content creators like me soon, these bullion dealers. But they will, because, you know, we stick with each other through good times and challenging times. But here's the big takeaway. Here's the big key. All this craziness going on right now is happening in an environment where there's not a crisis. Okay? Remember what happened back in March, April when we had a little mini crisis? What do you think is going to happen, guys, if we even hit a mini crisis? I was talking to Jake from Jake's Custom Parts last night, and I hopefully I'm quoting him properly, but he said, like, basically he said there's like 50 different black swan possibilities, right? There's a bunch of black swans flying around right now. If one of those black swans makes a crash landing, what's going to happen to demand for silver, demand for gold? As much your community, your basement, as it is my basement. We got to remember that, right? I mean, this YouTube channel is not called RonTube. It's called YouTube. Okay? You are just as important as I am. You're just as important as anybody who's participating here. Thank you all, and I will see you tomorrow.